That's all greens.
All right.
Dude,
Hey,
I
guys,
never
how's it
clip,
going?
Joey.
Oh, you just did it.
Oh, man.
I know, I did it
You
on
just
purpose.
did
How's
it
everybody doing?
again.
Welcome to the Worship Hangover.
Yeah, I'm
Zach.
Dallas.
Wow, you guys, is that a jinx?
Everybody say your name all at once. 1, 2, 3.
Dallas.
Zach.
I'm Joey.
You wanted your individuality. That's fine.
Yeah.
Joey's
that's
over there
fine.
going, I can't count that high.
Wait, what was the question?
What?
On what
Wasn't it-
number did we say it on?
Three.
Oh, 3. I got 3 fingers.
You got at least 3.
Yeah.
At least 3.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can do that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Joey can count all the way to 9.
Yeah. I almost wish that we could sit down and just start it like with one button because you guys have missed so much good conversation.
We need to start it before we actually start it, is what needs to
Yeah.
happen.
Sure,
Yeah.
whatever.
Maybe we'll do that someday.
They're just going to trick me.
If we get 8 million
opening,
likes.
The
I'm just
opening thing is
8
just
million.
us sitting down. And then 8 million
I think if we
likes?
get 8 million
If we get-
likes, I'm just going to close the hangover. Like,
You're gonna-
delete your
yeah,
page,
never
pull the
again.
plug, we're
Never
done forever.
No, you know how they go, if you guys do 200,000 likes, then we'll, I don't know.
Yeah, that's how adverse I am to all of the,
Yeah.
like, follower
This is
junk.
not
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah,
And once it becomes a thing, we're out.
the celebrities.
Celebrities.
Ugh.
I've never heard that term
That was
before.
gross.
It
I
was,
didn't like
it was
that.
the term
Sounds like you're
before
really hip with it.
influencer.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
I'm glad I
I
missed
thought
that.
they just were called YouTubers.
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
That too.
I think it's funny to hear YouTubers talk about whenever people ask them, like in their family, they're like, "What do you do for
Oh
a
my
job?"
gosh.
And they're like, "I'm."
I'm a
don't understand.
YouTuber.
It doesn't compute.
I'm a
It doesn't
YouTuber.
They're like-
compute.
It's always been that way too.
Yeah, but
Like-
how do you pay your bills?
Yeah,
I make YouTube videos.
Yeah.
No, but
Exactly.
like, what's
No, no,
your
no.
job?
yeah.
You know, I
still-
would be lying if I said I didn't get that.
I was gonna
reaction.
say I kind of relate because people still ask me like
Yeah.
like do you have a job during the week? Like people will still ask me that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
What do you mean? We just
I'm
show
like,
up and
dude,
volunteer, right?
I'm
You know
serving
how
the
much work
church
it
of
takes to
hundreds of
make-
people.
You know how much work it takes to just make the sermon happen, much less pastor a
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
Go to our website. Do you not see all the people on staff?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah, it
And
cracks
then-
me up.
But they're still like, no, but really.
No, but really.
No,
But
but
I'm
like,
I'm serious.
no,
This is a
but
serious
like, how
question.
do you pay your
Why are you not taking me
bills?
seriously?
I love it.
Oh,
People
man.
have asked me that sometimes, like,
Yeah.
like where do you work?
Here.
And then I'll be like,
At a church.
Yeah.
it hasn't been so much
Oh,
here
like
as
at
Hillsborough.
church. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they'll be like, what
Yeah,
do you do?
especially-
Like, what do you do for
Yeah.
a job? And then, or like, what do you do during the week?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do all week?
Yeah. I got asked that as an
What do
intern.
you do? No, I'm just
Sometimes I ask myself the
Yeah,
same
right.
Play
question.
guitar. He just
Yeah.
plays guitar all
He
week.
does some. That's true.
Yeah,
A little bit, but that's part of it.
That's part of the gig, man.
that's
Yeah.
part of it. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But okay, so the real talk is of what I do every week is when all the declines come through. If
so
you look
true.
up like worship minister decline memes, it's
so good.
Man.
and yeah, it's like everyone declines.
I've
That has
wa-
happened a couple times, and it's not the worst thing because
If Zach comes out with an acoustic guitar and one other person, you know.
I've declined on you twice this month. It's
Yeah.
a thing, man.
yeah. So, but like sometimes, honestly, like I think the thing you have to commit to, which is something I committed to a long time ago,
Yeah.
and I like consciously, but I was like,
The
you know
show
what?
must go on.
Even if no one shows up,
Yeah.
like I'm not doing this necessarily for that,
Yeah.
even though that's always a bonus. Like having the congregation like singing along and like all that stuff is just
Yeah.
bonus, but the baseline is showing up and just giving God praise.
I think the
Worship.
benefit that I get for being old enough to have started when like nothing that we do existed.
Yeah.
I think I get the benefit that like
Yeah.
we didn't have monitors. You know what I mean? Like, so if my monitor mix is bad, who cares?
Did you ever have a not
like,
a floor wedge even?
like we had a floor wedge,
Okay.
but you shared it with everyone. You know what I mean? Like there
Yeah.
was there
It
was,
was just a
one
mix.
mix.
A single
coming
aux.
back.
Yeah, it was one mix, so you couldn't hear nothing. All you could hear
Yeah.
is the vocalists, you know. And that was the
Honestly,
thing. We didn't have any click
you're
tracks,
just
so if I
hoping
can't
for
hear
the
the click
best.
track, I just
I-
listen to the drummer.
I
Like,
kind of like that.
and if
There's something
nobody
freeing about it.
else shows up, a piano or a guitar, that'll work.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something that happens too, I think, when like those situations, like when you see it happen randomly, like when the power goes out or you know, something like that, there's this moment where the entire church or the entire room, the entire congregation decides together we're going to worship anyways.
Yeah.
You know, that always like, because when it becomes
never
a
fails,
choice, when it becomes a choice, like those are some of the best worship experiences.
Yeah.
Far more than fancy lights and.
It's like everybody on a normal week is right in a train, and you get on the train, and the train goes.
Yeah.
But when the power goes out, that's like your train has stopped, and everybody gets out and starts pushing. And so it's like,
oh man,
it's
that's
real
good.
And it's like, even if we were in a service and our power went out, like even if we were in a service and our power went out, first of all, it'd be a very dark room. Can we just acknowledge that? Like our room would be very dark.
Do we have emergency lights in there?
Yeah,
they would come on.
Okay, all right, that's good.
But the acoustic guitar and a voice would still fill that room up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
You know what I mean?
It's designed that way.
It'd be fine.
Yeah, it would.
So
Just
you just
kind of
hope you
fun.
have the right acoustic guitarist that day.
that's the truth.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Or the right acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them can
Some
be.
might and some might less.
But man, those are super powerful, and I think it is some to do with that, the choice that you make in that moment when you're like, okay, like it's up to us now.
Yeah.
I mean, congregation member, us. And so joining together, I love those times.
Yeah.
And you can tell a difference on a Sunday if you're the only one in the room choosing to worship.
Oh, that's true.
You know, like there is that difference when each person in that room, even when there is everything there, because if you just did an acoustic guitar and a voice, like that would get old, you know, and it would be the same experience.
Yeah. So the declines
similar.
when that happens, just they aren't as impactful. They still are stressful sometimes because we do have like an expectation that we've built for a service.
Yeah.
And so we have that, but it's.
I think I would guess, this is just me guessing, I'm going to speculate. It's probably more stressful if you have like every position filled, but one that's like critical. Like if you run out of drummers, or if you run out of bass players, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if you run
drummer
out of,
might be the worst actually.
Yeah, or if you run out of out of sound people, you know what I mean? Like that's when it's like, okay, I've got this whole group of people who could do this thing, but the person that like this thing over here is so important it affects it in a major way.
I was gonna say it was like lead guitar.
Yeah, but you can fake that.
I'm just kidding.
You know what I mean? Like you can sing and fake like lead, you know, at the same time.
Yeah,
I don't think that's as
I
big
can't
of a
play
deal.
true lead.
Yeah, I and really any rhythm string instrument can be like you can pull it out and it's not a huge not a huge deal. But I do think once you lose bass or once you lose drums, the effect of the whole band thing is a big thing.
Yeah. The drummer is a huge. I think the drummer would be the one that I would get nervous about the most. Like sometimes if we don't have a drummer, then I'm like, that's when we do an acoustic day.
Yeah.
So but that doesn't happen super often. But man, you go to some churches and they have like, I think we forget how fortunate
We're very
are
blessed
for the amount of instrumentalists that we have, because some places are just like, dude, what do we do?
Yeah.
And I've been there before too, and coming here was just like, man, this is a lot of people, and it's helpful. And
so learn an instrument.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. You could actually, I think it's like National Learn an Instrument Week or something like that.
Is it really?
Or like music lessons, something like
All
that.
right, I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, so I saw that pop up in the prep email that I get every day. It popped up today that it's like try a music lesson week or something like that. Cool. Like it's a thing.
Okay, this is a perfect
like,
chance to tell you guys about something that we got yesterday. So how do I describe him? My brother-in-law, yes, and his wife. It's like,
well, that's a good way to describe him.
Yeah. So he and his wife came yesterday, and they're going to hang out with us this week.
Now, is this your wife's brother?
Rachel's brother.
Yes, Rachel's brother and his wife. Yeah.
Okay.
So see what I mean? It's not brother-in-law isn't always as helpful.
It's still a brother-in-law.
Yeah. So they came and they brought just boxes of things.
Yeah.
That they hadn't brought to us. And so some
I
things
love
came
it
from,
when people bring boxes of things.
Yeah. So some came from Rachel's other brother. and then they just brought some stuff for the kids. And so one of the things that was in the thing is from her brother who works at Vintage Stock. So he gets like
cool,
a bunch of
all the cool
things.
Yeah.
So they pull it out.
What'd you get?
It's a I don't even know how to describe it. It's a piano that you use your breath to play.
Oh,
so you can blow into it.
Yeah.
And secretly, I've wanted one of those for so long. Sometimes you would call it a melodica. And so it has this tiny little tube on it, and I want the tube to be longer so I can actually like use both hands. But what you're supposed to do is put the. And this is a hot take.
I feel like the tube could be longer.
This is
that seems like something you could do.
This is analog auto tune.
No. It is not your voice.
It's like bagpipes, but piano.
Okay.
Yeah, so you slip this piano on your hand.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
And then you play it with this hand, and you can position it to where you can also blow through.
Yeah.
But it feels so good.
Yeah.
You can't do anything because I stink, but like I can play like a C chord.
I mean, if you brushed your teeth, maybe. But
Oh man. So.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, that burns.
Dude, just got roasted.
Set me up.
Boom, roasted.
So you can play stuff on it, but it just
you can't
it's so
recover
analog
that.
that it feels
real,
super nice and real, and it's got like holes on the back so that the sound comes out really nicely.
That's the beauty of analog.
Is this like a cheap toy one, or is this like a legit?
This is like an $80 thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so you can actually like crescendo with it and things too. So you can pull in the sound really
for
blow
those
really
who
light.
on the stream who may not know what a
you don't know what a crescendo is?
What a crescendo is for them.
Not for Joey.
For them, what would you tell us what that means?
No, Joey, you go ahead. Explain.
No. I think this is Zach's story.
You're with all the
I don't want to hijack Zach's story, and so I think just for them,
for them. Okay. So this is what it is.
Yeah. Listen up, guys.
So crescendo is when you start at a low, quiet dynamic.
Yeah.
Like a tiny violin. And then you
like a tiny violin, this small.
Yep. Yeah. And then it grows.
It's playing just for you.
And you can do whatever you want. You can go from pianissimo to fortissimo.
Yeah.
What?
It's the quietest.
Dude, take a music lesson.
It's right here. It's right here. First technology.
Exactly what he meant.
Now music.
What?
So yeah, you can go from as quiet as you can get, like quieter than a whisper, all the way up to.
It's called dynamics.
Yeah. And they're described in piano, forte, mezzo forte.
Why do big
piano.
word when small word do trick? It just starts small, get loud.
You have to say a single word. It's the exact thing that you're talking about.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So there it is.
There you go, guys.
Because Joey already knew.
I already knew.
He just wanted you to.
Joey, I don't think Joey knows still.
I
was gonna say though, like this is the thing with anything analog, and it's not just in instruments. Like anything analog, there's this connection that happens that doesn't happen whenever we live in like in the digital fake.
Yeah.
Like I even thought about like, because I question myself whenever you were telling when you were giving Joey like this much music theory, I question myself on this. And sorry, I have all the burns today. I don't know what it is. I'm just feeling it.
Saucy, man.
Great.
So Stanton even noticed I brought in the burn. It's like, yeah, I work with words. I can do this. So anyway, but
at the same time that words is hard.
So I second guessed myself though, because I thought like, because I immediately went to like even a board game, like an analog game. It's just there's just a connection there. But then I second guessed myself because I'm like, I love to play like Smash Bros or Mario Kart with my kids. Yeah. But we connect in such a different way whenever we play a board game. Like that's a different and better connection.
You're pushing the train.
Yeah.
You're getting out and pushing.
Well, and it's not even just that. When I'm playing, like when we're playing Mario Kart, it's like we're all almost like burning each other. You know what I mean? Like, like making fun of each other along the way or whatever.
Co-op games are the best.
Yeah. But then when we play a board game, like we're still competing, but we're also just talking because it's not like this glaring thing in our face the whole time.
Yeah. You're going to lose if you aren't connected the whole time.
Yeah.
It's less engaging and somehow
better.
Is more engaging.
Yeah, absolutely.
Less is more and more is less.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of less is more, let's talk about waiting.
Oh.
So, Joey didn't like that transition, but it cooked.
I tried to set you up earlier, but
yeah, I know.
You guys can go back and check it out. I threw it down.
He threw it down.
take.
If there is a sermon that will make me feel the most convicted out of anything,
yeah,
it is waiting.
Why is that?
Because I hate waiting. The first icebreaker question from our small group last night was, what's a small thing that makes you like that you hate waiting for, like that tests your patience?
Yeah.
And dude.
Conviction setting in.
Oh man,
I went to Slim Chickens yesterday, and I was in the drive-thru.
Oh, that's not the drive-thru for me, man.
Not on the waiting day.
Can't do it.
So I went in there, and there was a car next to me, and I was like, "They're ordering," and I waited for a long time before I was just like, "I think I'll go inside."
Yeah.
And I went inside, and I waited some more.
Yeah, it's the worst, man.
Dude,
but it was really good chicken.
When I go to
afterwards.
McDonald's because I want something quick, and the person in front of me doesn't know what they want. Listen,
McDonald's menu hasn't changed in 73 years.
Exactly. I orchestrate my drive-through experience to be as quick as possible.
Also, it's Friday in Jeff City. We all know you're getting the fillet of fish. Stop pretending.
I've never gotten that.
Don't ever get the fillet of fish.
It's Lent season right now, guys.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Anyways, I'm not giving up chicken for Lent.
So you lose your patience. You lose your patience when someone's...
I get so mad. I just hate waiting on people.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. Like that's my biggest pet peeve, I think, ultimately is
waiting for people, waiting on people.
Waiting for people.
Waiting
on people.
Yeah, I share your struggle. I so much struggle with like that kind of linear waiting or whatever. That sorry, was that a
No, I'll tell you in a second.
Okay.
There's a thing that just drives me absolute bonkers, and I'll tell you that.
So, but I
just got triggered.
I get so worked up through that kind of linear waiting that I then feel this like insane pressure that whenever I'm like at the counter or doing something, like I have to be the fastest at it so the person behind me doesn't have to feel how I feel.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
Absolutely.
And then you're in a big cycle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear mine?
Yeah, I do.
Dude, have you ever been to Schnucks?
I have.
Have you ever self-checked?
I have. It's
That
the
is
worst.
The absolute worst. I know that it's not as simple as I don't understand what it takes to make one of those.
But why
systems.
can't I walk up and just go beep?
Yeah.
You have to press start.
Let's be honest.
and then-
You do every time, and then you're like, "What?" And it makes the noise, but it doesn't.
And if you insert a card, obviously you're using a card. You shouldn't have to press card.
Exactly.
So and then
What's up with that button? Like, why would I ever? Why does it even ask me if I want to pay with a card?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's the worst.
So
Like, what?
So and then just the way that it talks to you is like you're old, which maybe I'll appreciate that when I'm old and I can't listen as quickly. But right now it's just like, thank you for shopping at Schnucks.
Yes.
And so sorry, Schnucks, if you're
equally as frustrating to me though is whenever I go to Aldi. So I have a rule at Aldi: if I'm in the self checkout line, I'm bagging my groceries while I'm checking them. Like that's just how I'm operating. And so I bag slowly at Aldi, but then they have that like digital concierge just like, please scan your next item for purchase, and I'm like, dude, I don't even work for you. You can check my groceries as fast as you want to when you put an employee here.
So tell us in the comments. I see a couple of you guys in there. Tell us what your there's Kristen. She says Dollar General is the worst.
Well, because they stopped self checkout at Dollar General. And then you got to like ring the bell for the person to come from wherever they're at, stocking shelves because they've got like one employee.
If there's a person waiting for you,
It's okay though. That's cheap.
This is not the popular opinion, maybe for some, but I do love just a real person.
Yeah, I do too. I would rather have a real person.
And I love
time.
the conversation. If it's a bad,
I'm
checker,
not on this.
Yeah.
I'm not on this side of the.
I don't
But
love
it's my old school grocery store.
Because here's the
mindset.
thing. My thing is, I know that if I go in a checkout line, I'm gonna have to wait for somebody to finish checking out because hardly ever is there just an open, especially at Walmart. Like Walmart is my
Walmart's
place.
not the good example
because they don't want you to. They don't want you to go to the person.
There's all of these self checkouts, and I know that I'm gonna wait shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And
I might buy a subscription for a person.
You know what's the worst?
For a real person.
You know what's the worst? When
That's interesting.
I can't believe you just said that. I'm just gonna glaze past.
I tell you what, I wouldn't pay $9 for the Walmart Plus like self checkouts, but I might pay it for
a real person.
A real person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walmart and Schnucks, crazy. If you're listening. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Anyways, when you're in self-checkout line and you're waiting and there's a line and the person in front of you and one opens up and they're just standing there and they don't see the open register.
Oh, I just very kindly go, hey, I don't know if you saw that one's open. You can be kind.
Yeah.
Your impatience has just overruled it. So anyways, how does this apply to, let's talk about how this applies to like our life and Jesus, because obviously we have to get patience under control.
Yeah, so that's how we started group conversation.
Yeah. And yesterday's sermon was all about waiting. We wrapped up James James. We just finished the book of James. Yeah. We were in James chapter 5, and as you get into
James.
Yeah, right. As you get to the end of James and into that section, he does talk a lot about like how to wait well and like how to process through all of that. And he's not just talking about the little things in life, because we've all got the little things in life that we wait for all the time, but he's really talking about like considerable situations where you're waiting, like he even gets into like physical health and gets into like waiting for something that's so significant and waiting for such a length of time that it puts your faith and your like at risk. It puts you at risk of struggling that way.
Well, and the word he uses is suffering.
Right, exactly. And so he talks about that. So that's the journey that we were on yesterday.
You brought up Job, which is a big...
Yeah, well, he brought up Job.
Yeah, a big type for waiting.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we were talking about. So as we were talking about it though, and as you read through, you really see James focus on a couple of things. First of all, you see him focus on God's character and his goodness. God's character is a big theme in the book of James. And so he talks about that, but then he also talks about like the community that he has that God has given us through the church, and their the opportunity to lean into them whenever we're in a season of waiting, and the responsibility that we have to partner with and comfort and encourage people who are waiting. Sorry, I don't know that I answered your question.
No,
I can't remember it.
I don't think it was a question.
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
No, there was no question. Okay, great.
So it's twofold. It's like a partnering and waiting and striving to like be patient and waiting ourselves. And you talked about like active waiting and just it not being this passive thing that we get we're just sitting there waiting, which is so often.
Yeah. Well, and if James like calls us to anything, it is not passivity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the entire letter is like, you could do something, you should do something. You know what I mean? Like you can do this. You should do this. Like you say you have faith in Jesus. Show me you have faith in Jesus. Go do something and show me.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't call us to passivity. Sometimes waiting can feel like passivity.
Yeah.
And that's when, and this was one of the things we talked about in the message yesterday. Sometimes we're called to do something that doesn't feel like it has anything to do with what we're waiting for, but we're called to do something while we're waiting still.
Mr. Miyagi moments.
It is a Mr. Miyagi moment.
So on this last Wednesday, we looked around and I was sitting next to someone who's older than I am.
Okay.
And which there's a large range there, but
that's someone who's a big range.
Older than I am, and
not as big as.
And neither probably one of talking about me and try not to be offensive. It's fine.
It wasn't you.
Oh, good.
Did you sit next to him in church?
It's probably Alpha.
No, it was on Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
Yeah, and so we were in the event center, and we're sitting there just looking around. And he and I were eating our dinner at that time. We're looking around and we just see kids and everybody's got AirPods in or whatever.
Yeah, of course they do.
Fill your whatever you have. And it was just an interesting thing because they all had one in.
Uh-huh.
And we're like dating ourselves for sure, but we're like, why are they all running around with just one in?
Yeah.
Like as opposed to two.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think they're made to have two in. But it was just like my thought was, it'd be crazy or a weird feeling, maybe anxiety to be like having real life coming at you and also the flood of
escape.
Yeah. And you're trying to find yourself in the midst of it.
Yeah.
It's just this weird, like getting pulled in two directions.
That's funny that you say that. Our house had a rule at all times.
Uh-huh.
Almost exclusively. You were never allowed to wear both earbuds or both headphones in.
You're okay with one though?
Always
Weird.
one in. That was my mom would always say, one in, one out, Joe. Because if she needed us for something.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Like, because this is like they're in a social situation.
If my parents have, and that's the thing of like, it almost becomes a metaphor for our relationship with God, right?
Okay.
Like sometimes I think that the real world, like we know that this is not our home, like our true place is with God.
Yeah.
Right. And when we're interacting with the world, I don't know, I feel like sometimes waiting or really just prayer is almost this experience of having one in and one out. Because when God needs you, you need to be listening, and I think patience and specifically prayer, like that was the action, right? Like was going back to prayer and running to God, right? And I, the whole time you kept saying stuff like that and talking about prayer, I just kept thinking about Jesus and how like Jesus to me, like it feels like he always had this like one headphone in and one out of like he is listening to God in every moment. And I've been reading through Luke, and one thing I notice over and over, one thing Luke says is that constantly Jesus tries to get away. Like he's running away from people all the time because he's running to God, and people are surrounding him. And if ever there is a time to have very little patience and very little amount of waiting, like he's trying to wait almost, and life is coming bustling in, and he doesn't necessarily run from it. He welcomes people, but then still always prioritizes. And I feel like to me that's a lot of that dynamic. And we talked a lot in group about why do we struggle so much with patience? Why is patience such a hard topic? When you in third service, you said you were talking about wishing your life away in patience. I could hear like every guy in the room go, It was so funny. But it's this truth of like, not only do we see it within ourselves, but we see it in other people. Yep. And to me, that was like a sign of people who have wished their life away. Yep. And people who see it in other people. And so
you're at that stage of life. You know what I mean? Like you guys, young, single, like beginning careers. Yeah. Like it's always the dream for what will be, what could be, like, you know what I mean? Like that's just the stage of life. Like it really takes, I think it honestly, for most people, it either takes a catastrophic event or a which this is also catastrophic, or children to slow them down. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I think that it kind of takes that, because then you almost can't not be in the moment whenever you have like little kids, unless you're just escaping. Yeah. And that's a whole other conversation. But you're at that stage of life where it's like, man, I remember in my 20s, I remember thinking like, man, if I could just make what my boss makes, man, if I could just have my house already, if I could just, like all those things, and just wishing life away. And now I'm in my 40s, and I'm able to look back and go, you know what? Like that actually worked out okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the plan's all right.
And it's this idea that I think when we're patiently praying, say that 5 times fast. Yeah. When we're doing that, what I think we realize is that our vision for our lives doesn't necessarily need to be about the future. Right? Like there's a part of that, and we talk a lot about vision, and I think in my own devotionals, like the word vision has come up, like personal vision has come up a lot. And it's like, to me, when you're on vision, you almost it's a very now kind of thing.
Yeah.
Striving in a vision feels initially like, oh, this is where I want to be. But I think when we shift, and the way we see Jesus work is, what is the thing that I need to be doing right now? Mm-hmm. And I think when we are patient, it recenters our hearts, and to me that's what being patient is.
Yeah, and it's funny because now I'm on the other side of this thing, right? Of this thing. Like, first of all, I know, like, for any part of my, like, what I wanted my life to look like to come true, God had to beat the tar out of me in my 20s to be able to make me humble enough to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I know that that's true now. And I'm on the other side of, like, I now am on the closer to my kids leaving home than them entering into my home side. And so I would give almost anything for time to slow down for a few years. And so, like, that's a whole other, it's just like this whole other season that comes.
Yeah, you mentioned talking about your kid almost driving, and I just looked over at your son, and I was just like, oh, geez.
And
talking about,
and I know that everyone says it, and it's totally cliche. Man, next week it's going to be able.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's wild. It's such it's such a wild, like, and when it flips, like, you'll know the second that it flips from, like, man, this is so long. We have so much time. And in 1 second, it's going to be like, man, this is almost over.
Yeah. I already feel that today, just because he doesn't look like a child. He's a child, but he doesn't look like a child anymore to me. He just has facial features that are more grown up. And
well,
it's like
now
the opposite of waiting. It's like, I wish I could wait more.
Yeah.
Yeah, people will look at pictures of Abel when he's an adult and be like, "Yeah, that is you."
Yeah. He already looks like
Whereas,
himself.
like, I look at, like, Lucas, pictures of when he was younger. He
looks very similar.
He looks, and different in a lot of ways too.
So we're sitting around life group last night, and we're talking about, like, just season of life for most of my group, and Alpha and I have the oldest kids in the group, and the McElwains are in there with us, which they're similar age to us, but they also have like a 2-year-old, and so it's just, so we're talking about season of life,
they
and
more punishment.
Right.
I love my kids.
I can't say that joke right now. But I'm looking around the room and I'm going, like, all of these people have, like, toddlers, you know what I mean, and everything, and we have a high schooler, we have a middle schooler, and 2 teenagers, and that whole thing, and it's just like, Alpha and I now look at their kids and we just say, hey man, you remember that, you know what I mean, and all of the fun memories of the kids, even the ornery stuff, but then also we can look at them and we can say, and like, how tired they are. and we can be like, man, do you remember that too? And so Alpha's, like, talking to someone last night. She's like, your kids could spend the night at our house. like it would be fine, and you guys need to sleep. So just a totally different thing.
That kind of goes back to what you were saying about helping people. If you're, I would say, like, not that you're, like, your desire is to wait. Like
in that area.
Yeah.
And not in every area, candidly.
But where patience is, like, you're not really, I wouldn't say necessarily you're in a season of waiting.
Yeah.
Like, you're wanting it to stay, and it is fleeing you.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a season of expectation. Yeah. And that's the thing. You know what I mean?
But my point is that you still in that moment have a desire to help people who are in that. And that was a lot of, what we talked about. Now, that part didn't hit me as much as this is what you do when you're waiting.
I mean, that scope of the sermon is always such a cool thing, because, like, you're hitting people who have teenagers, like that whole group of people. There's parents that are supported in the room, for the most part, and then you've got people who are like 80 years old, and they have a different type of waiting.
For sure.
Like maybe an expectant waiting.
Yeah.
in a lot of ways for heaven. I know for some of them, like they can see the glow of the light at the end of the tunnel, sorry, that might be insensitive to say, but like I know they think about that stuff, and I'm sure that as we all get older, we will begin to imagine like, oh man, I know I'm getting older. I can see it when I look in the mirror, and so that waiting is totally different than your house waiting, and trying to look for that, and so and my waiting's different because like I'm not necessarily checking off bucket list things. It's like time to get to work, like so my waiting is like on things that are like have formed in the last 3 years, like ideas that have formed in the last 3 years. So
Stanton just said the last of the kids moved out last night into her own place. Wow.
Yeah. It's one of those things like I can only imagine, but I also can't imagine. Man, that's rough. So at the same time, and I've said this forever, and I do believe this, and Alpha and I have chosen, like, this is how we live as parents. Like, we had this little old lady who actually our dog is namesaked after Miss Wilma. And we loved her to death, and the single wisest person I've ever met in my life. And she one time we were talking about kids, and of course her kids were like old enough to be my parents, because she was 90 years older than Ezra to the day. Wow. And so anyways, we were talking about, the stages of life and parenting and stuff. And so I asked her, like, hey, did you ever go through like being sad over, whatever? And she goes, I just decided that it was so exciting for them that I got more excited for what they were going to get to experience than I did sad that I was missing out on something. And we just we've tried to live our parenting journey that way. Like, I'm excited for Boaz to get to experience what it's like to have the freedom of a driver's license. Yeah. And I'm excited to see what he goes and does whenever he goes to college. I'm excited to see what Justice grows into in high school and how he comes into his own at that age. And
you see a lot of parents with maybe some regret of, man, I just wish my kids were 2 again, or I wish they were all little and were playing outside, which I mean, now I'm thinking about that.
I think I'm in the season where my parents are in that season. Yeah. That's the truth.
But I haven't experienced that so much because I wouldn't wish away the present.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's so good.
It's a weird feeling to be inside of, but I love the present because
that almost feels like the same thing that we're talking about.
I know
so.
Like,
there's
it works with the past too.
Yeah, I know there's going to be a season where my kids and I almost like right now there's this authority thing, and there's going to be a season where we become equals. And I know too, because I've gone through it a couple times. There's going to be a season where they're going to become daddy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they're going to have to take on the responsibility of their mom and dad. Like, I know that's a thing. Yeah. And so I look forward to the day. I mean, not that I wish it would come today, but I do also look forward to the day when it's like we're sitting around playing a game of cards with like our kids and their spouses, and we're like, yes, we're their mom and dad, but we are also actually able to be friends. I look forward to that.
Dang, this is getting heavy.
So, man.
Yeah, they say once your kids get cool, they leave you.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I've heard from a few empty nesters.
Yeah. So, fun stuff. We're going to go.
Yeah, we got to go. Man.
Oh, man. Holy cow, it's 40 minutes.
Thank you guys for joining us today.
We're down memory lane
Hopefully, share in the comments if you have any thoughts about this, because I'm sure that you have opinions and thoughts. So we're thankful for you guys.
Yep. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
See ya.